Central Portland, Southwest Washington, and all of Oregon. This is KOIN News 6 at 11 p.m. News that's to the point.
Throughout the area hit by the hurricane, we will do what it takes. We will stay as long as it takes to help citizens rebuild their communities and their lives.
But there's a very long way to go. The president spoke from the French Quarter tonight, but these new pictures are in, and one of them from New Orleans' hardest hit and poorest areas, the 9th Ward.
Part of that community looks like it's been hit by a bomb. And without giving too many specifics, President Bush delivered that positive message to the Gulf Coast tonight. Good evening, I'm Kelly Day.
And I'm Jeff Gianola. But for many devastated residents, actions speak louder than words. KOIN News 6 reporter Bianca Solazano is covering the aftermath from New Orleans tonight.
Good evening. From the middle of hurricane-ravaged New Orleans, President Bush told the nation tonight that he promises to do whatever it takes to help the hurricane victims rebuild their lives. In the heart and soul of New Orleans, the French Quarter, President Bush tried to ease the nation's post-Katrina blues, promising the Gulf Coast will be rebuilt and it will be even better.
There is no way to imagine America without New Orleans, and this great city will rise again.
But rebuilding will not be cheap, an estimated $200 billion. The president said the nation's biggest natural disaster will be one of the world's greatest reconstruction projects, one for which Bush says Washington will pick up most of the tab.
Federal funds will cover the great majority of the costs of repairing public infrastructure in the disaster zone, from roads and bridges to schools and water systems.
But it won't be so easy for everyone to pick up where they left off. The president noted that poverty in this region has its roots in a history of racial discrimination and that rebuilding should actually improve on what was here before.
The thing I'm scared about is, who's going to come and help everybody rebuild their houses.
President Bush promises the government will. And the president also said that 4 years after the September 11th tragedy, the nation should expect a better response to this type of emergency. He said the response will be investigated and the government should learn from any mistakes. Reporting from New Orleans, I'm Bianca Solazano, KOIN News 6.
Meanwhile, the mayor of New Orleans says it is now time for his city to reopen to residents and commerce. Some neighborhoods will reopen next week, in fact. The historic French Quarter the week after that. Those who go back, though, will have electricity, but the water is still not clean enough to drink or bathe in. The sewers are working, trash will be picked up, and some hospitals are now ready to take in patients.
The city of New Orleans, starting on Monday, starting this weekend, will start to breathe again. We will have life. We will have commerce. We will have people getting back into their normal modes of operation and the normal rhythm of the city of New Orleans that is so unique.
Now, the Army Corps of Engineers now says that most of the eastern New Orleans and adjacent parishes should be dry by the end of the month, and that is 1 week ahead of the earlier estimates. Water is still 6 to 8 feet deep in areas along Lake Pontchartrain, and the grim search for bodies continues tonight. The official death toll across the region now stands at 794 tonight. Rescue and recovery teams are still finding animals, too, that were left behind. In fact, the soldiers discovered this dog today at the top of a flight of stairs.
Well, with few, if any, stores open in New Orleans, the city is now turning to their downtown convention center, and they're turning that into a retail center.
Just a few weeks ago, it was a shelter to thousands of people, but most of them had no food and water. They were living among the dead. And tonight, KOIN News 6 reporter Cor Harlan spoke with a doctor with Northwest Medical Teams who saw it all for himself. He was there, and Cor Harlan joins us now with more.
All right, Kelly and Jeff, Dr. Tom Hoggard has cared for victims of all sorts of catastrophes, from Indonesia to Somalia and many places in between, and never has he seen conditions worse than he saw outside the New Orleans Convention Center.
While we were there were still bodies up in the convention center. This was amazing.
At the same time medical needs overwhelmed local capacity to handle them, Dr. Tom Hoggard, working outside the New Orleans Convention Center, was also present for some of the socio-economic breakdowns that turned a natural disaster into a human disaster.
And they were rioting, and they killed each other. Some of them killed each other, and they raped, and they beat each other up. It was amazing.
It was a disaster worse than any in the third world he's seen. Worse than even the tsunami in Indonesia that killed 4,000 people. Worse because, unlike the Gulf Coast, the tsunami came and went and it was over.
It wasn't an ongoing mess like it is in New Orleans. New Orleans is still this big toxic gruel, and it's gradually kind of going down like this. And I just found out today we don't know what toxins are there, but we sure know there's a lot of lead.
Lead and other chemicals that actually produced lesions on some patients who'd been walking through floodwater.
And I was seeing people with lesions on not only on their legs, but some of the co-workers, the rescue workers, that had lesions on their hands where they were getting people up and into the boats. And
now, Dr. Hoggard says chemical contaminants uncorked during the flood may affect people's long-term health in the New Orleans area. The lead contamination, those lesions you just saw pictures of there, may be just the beginning. Cor Harlan, KOIN News 6.
The Oregon Trail chapter of the American Red Cross says it is helping hundreds of people displaced by Hurricane Katrina. The Red Cross says 324 people have passed through its processing center in southeast Portland at the old Washington Monroe School. Also, the executive director of the local Red Cross tells us they've also served 4,500 meals, and it's also providing money for everyday items and short and long-term housing.
Well, tonight, Ophelia is once again a tropical storm, but it's not going anywhere very quickly, and that means more rain for the North Carolina coast. At its peak, Ophelia packed winds of about 85 miles an hour, and it left some residents and businesses very damaged, and also some nerves rattled.
This is the first hurricane I've ever stayed in, and it was awful.
Will you ever do it again?
No.
About 70,000 people lost power during the storm, but power companies say it is restored to all but a few thousand customers tonight. So where exactly is Ophelia tonight, and what are the chances that it could become a hurricane again?
Our chief meteorologist, Jeff Baskin, with the answers to all that. Jeff?
Well, fortunately, Ophelia still is on a weakening trend. Actually, it's weakened even more with winds down to 65 miles per hour now. And it is finally starting to move a little bit more towards the east. And it's going to accelerate as a disturbance out to the west starts to come its way. And that will pick it up and accelerate it towards the north and the east. So the worst is over for the Carolinas, but still a little bit of rain across the coastal areas. And the winds are diminishing tonight. That is the good news. And we'll have more on our local weather coming up in just a few minutes. Kelly, Joe?
We'll talk to you then. Thank you, Jeff. The trial of a Clackamas County man accused of abusing and killing his 15-month-old son continues tomorrow. In opening statements today, attorneys painted a picture of a troubled family with drug and alcohol addictions and a son just recently returned by DHS. Now, prosecutors told jurors that Daryl Paris was the only one who could have delivered the blows that killed little Ashton Paris. But the defense said the toddler's mother also had a chance to do harm to the boy. Ashton Paris died last December, a few days after his father called 911 and told dispatchers the boy was not breathing. Attorneys took the jurors to the family's Milwaukee home after opening arguments today to give them a first-hand look at exactly where it happened. That trial is expected to last anywhere from 3 to 2 weeks.
And police removed 3 young children from the care of their mother after a woman found her 19-month-old daughter wandering Kaiser streets all alone. The woman turned the toddler over to police, and then they later arrested Heather Collins for neglect and child endangerment. Police say Collins admitted to using methamphetamine, but said it had been a few days. She said her daughter must have slipped out an open door.
Sex offenders in Multnomah County aren't happy that the county is now putting their information and pictures online. The county launched a new sex offender tracking website this morning. It provides the public with pictures and addresses of all sex offenders considered predators who live in the county. A man accused of killing 2 sex offenders in Bellingham, Washington, recently used a similar website to find his alleged victims. Multnomah County officials say the site should make the community safer, but one local sex offender says putting his picture and that information about other sex offenders online puts them all at risk.
If it's my time to go, it's my time to go. If somebody chooses to do that, it's nothing you can do about it.
There's a link to that new Multnomah County sex offender website on Hotlink section of KOIN.com.
Oregon State University investigators reveal some details now into what caused the death of a man who was found inside a campus dorm. They say that alcohol did in fact play a role in the death of Lance Strickland. His body was discovered inside Finley Hall 1 week ago Saturday. And they say Strickland was not a student at OSU. Investigators believe that he was visiting friends who include several football players. Complete results from an autopsy are expected soon, and they have not yet been released.
The city of Cascade Locks sits in the heart of the Columbia River Gorge, the country's only national scenic area. Next, you'll hear why some think it should be home to Oregon's only non-reservation casino, and others who say no way.
And despite national trends, the housing bubble keeps getting bigger here in Portland. Coming up, experts' advice for keeping up.
And later, they just celebrated their 4-month anniversary. But it looks like the honeymoon's over for Kenny Chesney and Renee Zellweger.
Get your ha-has out.
If that doesn't spell fun, I don't know what does.
If it's laughter you're after, that's a good thing. Ellen's got fun in the Laughternoon.
We're not kidding around now.
You never know who's going to pop up.
It's amazing.
With Ellen, tomorrow at 4 on KOIN News 6.
Check this out. It's the Mercury Montego. Montego reinvents the car with one great idea after another. Can your car do this? Sit up higher for a better view. Go ahead, cross your legs. There's plenty of room here. Lots of room here, too. All this plus 29 miles per gallon on the highway. The only car that can do all of this is this one, the Mercury Montego.
Now drive the 2005 Mercury Montego for $21,454. No hassles, no gimmicks.
Find out why everyone is talking about what really happened to Emily Rose, the #1 movie in America. Critics are calling it smart, elegant, and very, very creepy. The Exorcism of Emily Rose, based on a true story. Rated PG-13, now playing.
Oh, believe this got thrown like that. The nominees for the Major League Baseball Comeback Player of the Year Award, sponsored by Pfizer, are now online. Vote, and you may win a trip to throw out a ceremonial first pitch at the World Series.
What if is not a priority? What if never gets the time of day? What if always takes a back seat to how was work? In fact, the only time what if gets any attention at all is when what if becomes why us? Find out why millions turn to American Family Insurance. A little peace of mind for less than you'd expect.
American Family Insurance.
Get to the point. Every story, every time. KOIN News 6. News that's to the point. This KOIN News 6 segment is brought to you by Arby's Restaurant. You're watching KOIN News 6 at 11 p.m. with Jeff Gianola and Kelly Day. KOIN News 6. News that's to the point.
Will it be an economic boost or an environmental disaster?
Now, those for and against a proposed casino in the Columbia River Gorge had many of their questions and concerns addressed tonight by the Confederated Tribes. KOIN News 6 reporter Jolie Winaga has the story from Cascade Locks.
Business could be better at Troy Chambliss's custom fishing rod shop in downtown Cascade Locks.
I just keep plugging away.
He believes a casino would lure thousands of potential customers.
More business would be nice, you know, that would help a lot.
Preparation of this EIS for the...
Down the street, it was standing room only at a public meeting hosted by the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, hoping to win over public opinion. City leaders believe a Gorge casino is a win-win situation.
And this is the right thing. It's not a burning tire factory. It's low impact compared to everything else. We already have the traffic through here, but we're in a major transportation corridor.
But this proposal faces stiff opposition, mostly from conservationists who believe a 500,000 square foot casino here in the Columbia River Gorge will pollute this scenic area. Those opposed wore anti-casino buttons. One of their main concerns is potential traffic hazards.
35 acres of parking lots for 3,900 cars, 3 million plus visitors a year coming up this narrow gorge. That all spells environmental disaster to us.
If approved, the Confederated Tribes, along with support from Governor Kulongoski, want to build Oregon's first tribal casino on off-reservation land. Cascade Locks business owners like Troy Chambliss say the financial benefits would boost a lagging economy.
Quite a few people are welcome in the casino, yeah.
But those opposed promise a good fight. In Cascade Locks, Joel Iwanaga, KOIN News 6.
Now, tonight was just the first in a series of public hearings. The next one will be held this Saturday morning at 9:30 at Marine Park in Cascade Locks.
Now, Governor Kulongoski approved the Cascade Locks site because he was convinced if he didn't, the tribes would build a casino on land they own east of Hood River. The 40 acres are accessible only by the Mark Hatfield Trail, which is closed to vehicles. The tribe said that they could